This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
We're very grateful to the entire community for hosting us for the Shabbos, and we thank all of the families that brought us in, Pachaya family, and the Stein family, and the Frieden family, and special hakar satov to the Rav and the Rebbitzin, Rabbi Feigenbaum, for being gracious and bringing us into the shul. We also thank the host and hostess of tonight's event, the Gibber family. I understand this is somewhat of a Chanukas Habayis because the floor is now being inaugurated for all time with tonight's Malava Malka. The Chazal tell us that the floor of the Beis Hamikdash was Toichai Rotzuf Ahava, that the floor of the Beis Hamikdash was actually laid with Ahava. That was the floor of the Beis Hamikdash. So may the floor of this home be Rotzuf Ahava for Avas HaTorah and Avas Yisrael, and for Simchas and Nachas for many years to come. Amen. Okay, so tonight is the grand finale. It's me again. We're going to speak about, the topic that's on everybody's mind. We're now, Klal Yisrael certainly is in Galus. We've been in Galus for the last 2,000 years. But over the last period of time, there has been, at least in my mind, a shift in the Galus. Growing up in America as a kid, what Galus are we in? This is Galus Edom, without a doubt. Nobody would have had any second thoughts. And maybe if you ask somebody today, what Galus are we in? Maybe somebody would say we're in Galus Yishmael. Is there such a thing as Galus Yishmael? Is there such a concept? We know that one of the basic tenets of Judaism is that there are 4 Galios, 4 exiles. This is so basic to Judaism that in the very second pasuk of the Chumash, V'ha'aretz hoisa soyu v'avayu v'choshech al pnei sahaim v'ruach Elokim rachefes al pnei hamayim. The Medrash Rabbi already tells us that this pasuk is a reference to the 4 exiles that the Jewish people will have to endure. Take a look on your sheets in number 1. The Medrash Rabbi tells us in Parsha Beis Ois Daled, V'ha'aretz hoisa soyu. This is Golos Bavel. V'avayu is Golos Madai. Madai usually goes together with Persia, Media. Choshech, darkness. What is darkness a reference to? Yavan. Like we know Chanukah time. Golos Yavan. Shehechshichu eineim shel Yisrael b'gzeiroseim. They darkened our eyes with their decrees. Hence Chanukah is the illumination during the darkness of Golos Yavan. And then the Medrash says, what is the 4th Golos? The 4th Golos is Al Pnei Tahaim. Ze Golos Mamleches Harisha. This is the wicked empire. She'ein lohem cheker. There are not enough words to say how terrible the 4th exile is. Like the Tahaim, just like the abyss is endless, so too the 4th Golos seems endless. Now traditionally the 4th Golos is understood to mean Golos Edom. Edom is usually a reference to the Western world. Rome, Italy, Europe, and then America today is considered by many an extension of Golos Edom. Even though the Medrash does not explicitly say what this 4th exile is, the Megala Amukos was one of the great Mekubalim in Krakow in the 16th century, 17th century. In fact, my children are direct descendants of the Megala Amukos, but not through me, through my wife. Megala Amukos was actually somebody who had a very unusual chavrusa. He was a chavrusa with Eliyahu Hanavi. In fact, on his kever today, you go to Krakow, it says on the kever of the Megala Amukos, Rav Nosson Nata Shapira, it said, Hayaloi Giloi Eliyahu Panim El Panim. This is a man who at times would not speak to the Taz, depending on what he felt the Taz was held in Shamayim. Megala Amukos says, if you look in the beginning of Sefer Devarim, the end of Sefer Bamidbar, Eileh Maseh B'nei Yisrael. These are the encampments of the Jewish people. So the Megala Amukos says that the words Eileh Maseh B'nei Yisrael, the truck first of all is Eileh Maseh B'nei Yisrael. Eileh is Azla Geresh. Eileh Maseh B'nei Yisrael Munach Ravi. So the Megala Amukos says Eileh Maseh B'nei Yisrael is a Rosh Tevos. Aleph, Mem, Beis Yud. A symbolism for the travels of the Bnei Yisrael. Aleph stands for Edom. Mem stands for Madai, Beis stands for Bavel, Yud stands for Yavan, and this is alluded to as well in the Trup. Eile Azla Geiresh. Azla Geiresh. We left, we were chased out. Munach Ravi, we were placed in 4 exiles. What are they? Eile Masei B'nei Yisrael. Edom, Madai, Bavel, Yavan, says Megalamukah. So traditionally, the 4th Galus is always a reference to Edom. But interestingly, if you look into Tehillim and Parak Vav, this is a parak that we say every day of our life. If you're Ashkenazi, Sfardim say something else for Tachnun. But the first pasuk of Parak Vav of Tehillim, which we actually skip in Tachnun, and it requires a lot of thought. Why would we say the rest of the chapter of Tehillim and Tachnun and omit this pasuk? The pasuk says, Lam Natseach b'neginois al hashminis mizmar leDavid. A song about the eights. The eights. What are the eights? Well, the Medrash Shoichar Tov says that even though traditionally there are 4 Golios, every Golos has its counterpart. Every Golos is a dual Golos. So the Medrash says, the Medrash Shoichar Tov Antilim says, what are, in fact, the 4 Golios are actually 8. Here they are on the 5th line. Bavel, Kazdim, Babylon, and the Chaldeans. So for example, you had Nebuchadnezzar, and you had Evo Merodach, but then you had other, Belshazzar, and so forth, who were not really Babylonian, but they were Chaldean. Then you have Paras, Madai Paras, Persia, Media. The Gemara says they made a deal between each other. You be the leaders, we be the secondary, and we'll switch off. Yavan, Moikdan. You have the Greeks, but after the Greeks you have the Macedonians. Alexander the Great actually conquered most of the known world, and he divided his empire among 4 generals. This is the Macedonian Empire. And then says the Medrash, the 4th Golus is actually a dual Golus as well. Yishmael, Edom. Interestingly, the Medrash says Yishmael first, Edom second. However, Rashi and Zechariah, when he quotes over this Medrash, he says it a little bit differently. He says, Bavel Kazdim, Madai Paras, Antiochus Maikdan, Edom the Yishmael. Rashi changes the order. Interestingly, Rashi changes the order. Is that important? Is that of note? Perhaps. Arizal says likewise that the final Golos is a dual Golos. Golos Edom and Golos Yishmael at the same time. What we're going to do tonight share a little differently than maybe I've done in the past. First, let's talk in general about Golos Yishmael, and is it a Golos? Is it a real Golos? Because we know they're Dalet Golios, and while each Golos has a dual aspect to it, but we're always familiar that it's called Golos Edom. Maybe we haven't even heard the term Golos Yishmael. The Maharal asks, in a number of places, we have 2 on the sheet. The Maharal, in his Sefer Ner Mitzvah, the Maharal wrote a commentary on the Yom Tov of Chanukah, number 8 on the sheet. The Maharal raises the following question: V'yesh b'nei Adam shayalim. There are many people who ask, V'heichan remez malchus Yishmael. Where is there ever a hint, an allusion to the exile of Yishmael, Shehi Malchus Ravusa Tekida Takifa, which is a very powerful and mighty empire? The Maharal gives 2 answers. Each answer deserves a shiur in and of itself. Each answer is unbelievable. But people ask me if I'm going to mention Memphis on the camera. Yes! I'm going to mention Memphis on the camera. We want to welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers who are watching us here in Memphis, Tennessee, under the great direction of Rabbi Feigenbaum of Young Israel of Memphis. It's going to cost you, by the way. What? And so Maharal asks, why is there no Rebbe? We know there's Malchus Bavel, there's Golos Yavan, there's Golos Paras, there's Golos Edom. What about Golos Yishmael? So the Maharal tells us 2 very important concepts. Number 1, says the Maharal, what is a Golos? A Golos, and this is based on Sefer Daniel, a Golos is, God gave the Jewish people majesty, He gave us Malchus, He gave us dominion, He gave us power, He gave us grandeur. And when the Goyim came and they destroyed the first base of Mikdash, when the Babylonians came and destroyed the first base of Mikdash, they usurped the majesty of the Jewish people. They usurped our grandeur and our malchus. So Bavel took our malchus and they stole it, they usurped it for themselves. When Persia conquered Babylon, they took the Jewish people's majesty from the Babylonians. When the Greeks conquered Persia, they took the Jewish people's majesty that the Babylonians had stole and the Persians had taken from them. The Greeks took it from them. And finally, Rome is empowered and entrusted with our majesty. But Yishmael's power, says the Maral, derives from a different source. In fact, in Sefer Daniel, it says when Mashiach comes, God is going to restore our long-awaited grandeur and majesty. What we initially possessed, what God originally bestowed upon us, we're going to take back from Edom and take back our rightful possession. But says the Maral, the power of Yishmael is from a different source. They have never taken our power. They have an independent source of koyach. What is their source of power? Where does their majesty come from? There was a man by the name of Abraham. He prayed to God in this week's Parsha. Lu Yishmael yichya lefanecha. God, I'm going to have Yitzchak. If only Yishmael would be successful. And the pasuk says, Uli Yishmael shematicha. Hashem said, I'm listening to you. God listened to the faith. In fact, the Zohar Kodesh says on that pasuk that the Jewish people say to Abraham, are you our father? Why do you say that? Why do you ask God to recognize Yishmael? All of our troubles in history come from this tefillah of Avraham Avinu. And Rav Hutner, I think in the Sefer Zikaron they wrote, in memory of Rav Hutner, writes that this concept of Maral is recognized in the historic phenomena that the Gemara Megillah says that Edom and Klal Yisrael share a seesaw relationship. Imalei charava. That when Klal Yisrael is successful, Edom is on the down. When Edom is successful, then we're on the down. The Gemara says if somebody tells you Yushalayim and Caesarea are both built, don't believe him. If someone tells you Yushalayim and Caesarea are both destroyed, don't believe them. If someone tells you Yushalayim is built up and Caesarea is destroyed, he got it right. If someone tells you vice versa, he got it right. Because we have a seesaw relationship. Why is that? Because it's the same power, it's the same koyach. Either we have it or they have it. When they have it, they've usurped our power. When we have it, it's what we took back from them. We don't find anywhere that the Jewish people and Yishmael have this type of relationship. That if we're successful, they're not successful. If they're successful, we don't find that. You know why? Because we have two independent sources of power. We were given Malucha from God. Yishmael has power from the tefillah of Avraham Avinu. That's the first concept of the Maral. Yishmael is not considered a Malchus or a Golos because it doesn't meet the bill. It doesn't fit the criteria of what a Malchus is. A Malchus is somebody who usurps the Jewish people's majesty. Yishmael never did that. Yishmael has an independent source of power. But then the Maral says something more frightening. And I'm not going to tell you what he says yet. Let's go to the Gemara in Masechta Avodah Zarah, number 6 on the sheet. Says the Gemara, at the end of days, God is going to take a Sefer Torah in his lap, and he's going to say, come, whoever learned this, come take your reward. So all the nations are going to clamor to claim reward. After all the nations are going to say, everything we did in this world is for the sake of the Jewish people. And as Harav Baruch Harris knows very well, they present their arguments to God, and they come and say, God, everything we did is for... It's going to cost him also. Everything we did is for the sake of the Jewish people. And God is going to say, you fools, that's not why you did it. And the Brisker Rav and Rav Henoch Leibowitz point out that God acknowledges the fact that in my plan, that's why I had you do it. But that wasn't your kavanah, so therefore I can't reward you for it. So let's get the back and forth of the Gemara. The Gemara says all the nations clamor to take reward from God, and God says, come on, order please, let's do this one at a time. So the Gemara says the first nation who steps up to the plate is Rome. And the Gemara says, why Rome? Why does Rome claim reward first? Because, says the Gemara, Rome is the most chashuv. The Gemara says, Miyad nichnas alafana malchus roimi. Why? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan zu roimi chayeva shetiva yatsa b'chol ha'olam. And the Gemara says, why do they go first? My time of mishum dechashiva. Rome is the most important of all the nations of the world. And Rome says, Ribbanu Shalom, we made many stores, many marketplaces, many bathhouses. We amassed silver and gold. Everything we did is only for the Jewish people so that they should be able to learn Torah. And Hashem said, you fool, that's not why you did it. You did it for yourself. You did it to delight yourself, to take pleasure in bathhouses, to take pleasures in the marketplaces, to indulge. And Rome walks out downtrodden. Rome walks out sorry that they ever asked God in the first place. And then the Gemara says, after Rome, which nation makes the request next? And the Gemara says, Yatsa, about the fourth to last narrow line, Yatsas Malchus Roimi, Benichnasa Malchus Paras. The next nation to make the claim is Persia. And the Gemara says, why Persia? Because they're the next most important nation. And the Persians say, God, we built a lot of bridges, second wide line. We built a lot of cities. We waged many wars. You know why we did everything? Only for the Jewish people to learn Torah. And God said, you fools, that's not why you did it. And they don't get reward. And then the Gemara asks, at the end of the Gemara, what makes Rome and Persia the two most distinguished nations on earth? Answers the Gemara, Mishum dahani mashchi b'malchusayu adaasi mashicha. These are the only two nations that will last until the end of days. Rome and Persia. Now, if you accept the tradition that America is the representation of the Roman Empire today, then we understand Rome lasts until the end of time. But Persian Empire is long gone. There is no remnant, relic of the Persian Empire. So if you're going to say it's Iran, and now we understand everything that's happening in the world today, America, Iran, okay, it makes you feel good. Iran today has nothing to do with the Persian Empire. Probably the sociologists say they were brought in from Oriental countries. I'm not sure, I don't know. But it's doubtful that Iran today has anything to do with the ancient Persian Empire. And the Gemara then is hard to understand, what does it mean that Rome and Persia will last to the end of time? Rome I get, I understand that, I don't have a problem with that. But Persia? The Paras? To the point where if you look at number 7, the Gemara in Yuma, which is really a Gemara on top of this Gemara in Avodah Zarah, the Gemara has a machlokes between Rome and Persia. Who stands last? They both get into the boxing ring. So I would wish both of them, mamish hatzlacha rabba. They should both be as successful as possible. Let them, wipe each other out. But who's going to be standing last? Rome or Persia? The Gemara says machlokes. The Gemara says, Rabbi Shiur ben Levi says, in the name of Rabbi, Rome will fall into the hands of Persia. So buy your tickets now. This is not the last stop. According to the Gemara in Yuma, Rome, America, falls into the hands of Persia. That's the opinion of Rabbi. By the way, Rabbi Bar Chanas and then Rabbi Yochanan and then Rabbi Huda, Rome falls into the hands of Persia. And the Gemara makes a Kavachaymer, a very interesting Kavachaymer. You can look at it on your own time. The bottom line, the Gemara says, Rav says, Persia falls into the hands of Rome. So, interestingly, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah says the two nations that last till the end of days is Rome and Persia. That's it. No Italians, no Japanese, no Chinese, or maybe they're negligible compared to these two superpowers. But the two main empires that last until the end of days are Rome and Persia. And which one stands last is a machlokes in the Gemara. Rav Yehuda holds Persia stands last. Rav holds Rome stands last. So according to Rav, you could stay here. No problem. You'll be able to stay. You don't have to move yet. According to the other opinions, get out of here. because America will fall. That's what the Gemara says. You heard it here in Memphis, Tennessee. That's the machlokes in the Gemara. Comes the Maral, back to the Maral. You want to know why Yishmael is not considered one of the 4 Golios? Look at the last 5 lines of number 8. Says the Maral, the Yoiser Nira, Yishmael hu bichlal malchus paras. Yishmael is the Persian Empire. So hu bichlal malchus shnia. It's included in the 2nd malchus. So why is he called paras? Why isn't it called Yishmael? He says, Maral says, if you look in the Psukim, it doesn't call it Paras. It calls it the 2nd Empire. Whenever you see Malchus Paras, it's a code word for Yishmael. So according to the Maral, Paras means Yishmael. So plugging that back into the Gemara, the Gemara says, what are the 2 most powerful empires in the world? What are the 2 most distinguishable empires in the world? Rome, America, and Paras, the Arabs. Why? Because these are the 2 only powers that will last until the end of days. And who stands last? America, or the Arabs, or the Muslims? It's machlokes. Rabbi says, get out of here. You're not in the right country. Rav says, wrong place. Rav says, you're in the right place. America wins. Gold medal will go to the America. Now, this is before Yimai HaMashiach. But interestingly, according to the Maral, the Gemara is saying explicitly there will be 2 powers that last until the end of time. Edom, Yishmael, and there's a dispute who stands last. By the way, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the Gedolei Yisrael today, he conveniently plugs in. We mentioned that if there are four Malchios, there are really 4 that are 8. He plugs in these 8 into Chad Gadya. And the goat, and the cat, and the dog, and the stick, and the fire, and the water, and the bull, and the shoichet, and the malach hamaves, these are the 8 Golios. Now, if you have 8 possibilities, it fits in very well into the 8 characters in the Chad Gadya. But now what's most curious is which one will be standing last before V'asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shachal. Who's the shoichet, and who's the malach hamaves? Edom Yishmael. Now, I think both of them are very qualified for both jobs. I think if either would apply to the shoichet job, I think either would get the job. And malach hamaves, certainly. And which one would plug into what? It would probably be, it seems to me, machlokes between the Medrash Shoicher type that lists Yishmael and then Edom, as opposed to Rashi, who says Edom and then Yishmael. Well, Reb Chaim Kanievsky goes with Rashi, and he says the shoichet is Edom. The shoichet is Edom. And the malach hamaves is Yishmael. I was thinking, according to the Medrash Shoicher, my grandfather used to tell me, in the concentration camp, you had the angel of death. Dr. Mengele was called the angel of death. He may have been the malach hamaves. If you want to go with the Medrash Shoicher, that Edom stands last. But either way, this is what the Gemara is telling us according to the understanding of the Maral. Now, it's also a major topic. Which Golos is worse? Edom or Yishmael? It's machlokes Rishonim. There's a lot about that. The Rambam writes about it in Garas Teiman. Rabbi Bechaye talks about it. I just want to refer you for a moment to number 14, the Zohar HaKadosh. No, not that one. The Zohar in number 19. Zohar HaKadosh in Parsha Shemos. Should know these words. V'ein lecha galos kasha li Yisrael kamay galos Yishmael, the Zohar says. There is no more difficult, devastating galos than galos Yishmael. So I'd like to explain that a little bit. Why is that so? There are many aspects of this. I'm very eager to bring to your attention the comments of the Kli Yakar and the Maral and the Gur Aryeh, understanding the quality of personality of Yishmael. The Kli Yakar says, when Rivka was told the Nevuah, Shnei Goyim b'vitnech, you're going to have 2 nations coming out of you. So she felt better. She was calmed down. Why was she calm? She knows she's going to have an Esav. Esav, a mass murderer. I mean, when she was told, Shnei Goyim Bevinech, I mean, she saw out of this guy Esav, she saw Hitler, she saw the Kazakh. I mean, how did this calm her down? The Kliyakar says that you know what she was nervous of? She was nervous of the fact that she knew she was having a tzaddik, and she suspected she was having a rasha. She was afraid she was going to have a rasha like Yishmael. And why was that so frightening to her? That was very frightening to her. Why is that? Nothing good ever came out of Yishmael. No one ever converted of note from Yishmael. Throughout history. You know any righteous converts? Maybe there are, but not prestigious, not that we know about. From Esav, there have been many tzaddikim who came from Esav. Antoninus. Without Antoninus, we never would have had a Mishnayos, we never would have a Gemara. It's only because of Rebbe's close relationship with Antoninus that we have Parsha Bal Peh. Right? Shnei Goyim Bevinech. Rebbe Meir came from Rome. He was a convert from Rome. Onkelos came from Rome. Shemaiah V'Avtalion came from Rome. Nobody mentioned in Chazal or anyone of note ever came from Yishmael. Why is that? Kliyakar doesn't explain. The Maral explains. Maral says an unbelievable observation. When Rivka heard that she was having an Esav and not a Yishmael, she breathed a great sigh of relief. Says Maral, compare and contrast Esav and Yishmael. Europeans, Americans, they wear nice clothing. They wear suits. They dress like an Adam. Yishmael, they don't even wear Big Day Adam. They wear shmatas. Even their leaders, they're not embarrassed to publicly walk around with shmatas. They don't live in homes. They live in shmatas. They don't wear Big Day Adam. They don't live in Batei Adam. Why is that? Says Maral, as only he could say, Esav has nefesh Adam. He has a human soul. Yishmael's nefesh is not the same nefesh as regular Bnei Adam. Who could even say such a thing? That's what the Maral says. The way they conduct themselves is symptomatic of the quality of their soul. They don't have nefesh Adam on the same level. And this fits very well into the famous comment of Rabbi Shulei Diskin that in this week's Parsha, Pere Adam, many are familiar, that usually in Lashon HaKodesh, first you say the noun and then you say the adjective. Adam Toiv, Adam Chacham, Ish Toiv, Ish Chacham, Ish Navain. First you say the noun, then you say the adjective. So it should say Adam Pere. By Yishmael it doesn't say Adam Pere. It says Pere Adam. Wild man. Says Rabbi Shulei Diskin. The noun is Pere. You know what he is? He's a wild. The type of wild that he is the man type of wild. The noun is the wildness. The adjective is the man. Which is exactly what the Maral is saying. But it goes to the core, it goes to the root. In fact, Rav Hutner comments, it's brought down in his Sefer HaZikara that when he was hijacked, he has very frightening comments about what he saw in the faces of the terrorists. He noticed something. So that's what so why is Ein Lecha Golus Kasha B'Yisrael K'may Golus Yishmael? Because you're dealing with a different entity. You're not dealing with the same caliber as an Esav. In fact, in Chazal, you have an Oyev and a Soinei. Most Rishonim say the Soinei refers to Esav. Esav, Halacha B'Yodua, Esav Sen Yaakov. The Oyev, it refers to Yishmael. An Oyev, Rabbeinu Bachai says, you cry out from such an enemy. Oyev Avoy. The word Oyev comes from language Oyev Avoy. It's a little insight into what we're dealing with. But there's something else quite remarkable. The Gemara says in Masechta Sukkah, let's take a look at number 10. The Gemara says that we know traditionally there's a concept of two Mashiachs. Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. Is there a basis for that? We always talk about it. It's a Gemara. The Gemara says there are two concepts. There's the concept of Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. So what do you need both of them for? Why do you need two Mashiachs? Halavai, we should have one Mashiach. Why do you need two Messiahs? Interestingly, the Medrash Tanchuma, if you look at number 11, where our battery is running low, so if you could just grab 2 batteries from the front pocket over there. The Medrash Tanchuma says that there are 2 animals. There's a shar and there's a chamar. There's an ox and a donkey. The ox is Mashiach ben Yosef. Perfect. The ox is Mashiach ben Yosef. Yosef is compared to a shar, like the pasuk says, Bechor shoyroi hadarlai. And then there's a donkey. The donkey is Mashiach ben David, because we know Mashiach ben David is Ani v'roichev al chamar, a poor man who rides on a donkey. Okay, so the shar is a reference to Mashiach ben Yosef, and the chamar is a reference to Mashiach ben David. What's the significance of that? What's the significance that the ox represents Mashiach ben Yosef, and the donkey represents Mashiach ben David? There's an unbelievable comment of the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon wrote a commentary on Kabbalistic work, Safra Ditzniusa. There are a few pockets in that book that are somewhat comprehensible. Here's one of them. The Gemara says as follows: all evil in this world could be traced back to 2 people, Cain and Hevel. Esav is the embodiment of Cain. Yishmael is the embodiment of Hevel. Cain violated murder, Esav. Cain violated illicit relations. He lived with the extra twin, Cain. Yishmael is Hevel. The Gaon says that's why Hevel was a little better. That's why Yishmael did Shuvah. Cain and Hevel, Esav and Yishmael, are represented by 2 animals, the shar and the chamar, the ox and the donkey. Says the Gaon, if these 2 entities ever came together, they would destroy the entire world. That is why the Torah says, don't plow with an ox and a donkey together, b'shar u'v'chamar yachtav, because the ox is Esav, the donkey is Yishmael. Let the 2 never join forces. They would destroy the world. And this was particularly frightening to me because I remembered a story I heard from my grandfather, that when he was in Auschwitz, he saw Eichmann, Yimach Shemai V'Zichrei. And Eichmann invited a special guest to come to Auschwitz, the Mufti from Jerusalem. And the 2 of them sat arm in arm together as Jews passed before them, and they would beat the Jews in a certain way to stop them from ever having children. And the 2 of them would laugh together. And my grandfather said this is the embodiment of the unification of the shar and the chamar, the ox and the donkey. Eichmann and the Mufti. And that image of Eichmann and the Mufti is the image of what the Gaon says if the 2 would ever join forces, they would destroy the world. In fact, it's not so well known. When Rommel was blitzing through North Africa, he was on the threshold of going into Israel. And it was only a matter of days before the prediction was he would overtake Israel in days. I mean, Hitler already had plans to gas the whole Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael in a few days. And the Arabs were screaming out of the window, Jews, we're going to swim in your blood. We're going to murder your children. We're going to violate your wives. Because Eichmann and Hitler had a pact with the Arabs in Palestine. That's the image of the shar and the chamar yachtav. Says the Vilna Gaon, an amazing thing. We have 2 Mashiachs. Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben Yosef is called what animal? Shar. Mashiach ben Yosef will take us out of Golos Edom. Edom is referred to as a shar. Esav is referred to as a shar. But what's Yishmael? Shavu lachem payim hachamar. Abraham said, stay here, Yishmael, with the donkey. Yishmael mar am hadoime lechamar. Yishmael's mother was Hagar. She came from Mitzrayim, asher basar, basar susim basaram. They're like horses and donkeys. Yishmael is the chamar. Mashiach ben David, says the Goin, who's the ani, v'roichev al chamar, will take us out of Golos Yishmael. Now, this goes very well with the way Rav Chaim Kanievsky understands that which Golos is last. Chaim Kanievsky says the Malach HaMaves is Yishmael, and we know traditionally Mashiach ben David is the final Mashiach, which according to the Goin will take us out of Golos Yishmael. In fact, there's a sefer, Kav HaYashar, I believe Reb Shmuel Kadanavar, he says an amazing thing. A gematria, people like gematrias, right, Rabbi Harris? So the Gemara says, Edoim and Yishmael. If you add up the numerical value of Edoim and Yishmael, is what? 502. It works. Trust me. Edoim and Yishmael, 502. Well, how do we counteract the ox and the donkey, 502? Avraham Avinu lived how many years? 175. Yitzchak? 180. Yaakov? 147. 502. Zeh l'uma zeh. One corresponding to the other. The years of the life of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov correspond in Kedusha to the power, the impure power of Esav and Yishmael. Let me conclude with the following. I just heard this. It's unbelievable. The Gemara in Makos, the most famous Gemara. Even if you never learned Makos, even if you were just at a Siyum of Masechta Makos, we're all familiar that one day Rabbi Akiva was walking by the Temple Mount together with other Tanoim, and they see a fox emerge from the Temple Mount, and the Tanoim begin to cry, and Rabbi Akiva is weeping. Laughing. Very good, you're listening. Rabbi Akiva is laughing. And they ask him, Rabbi, why are you laughing? He says, why are you weeping? So they say, why are we weeping? This is the place where the Torah says, V'hazar hakarev yumas, that no stranger, even a non-Kohen, cannot walk there. And now, shu'alim hilchuvai, now there are foxes violating the Temple Mount. And Rabbi Akiva says, that's why I'm laughing. Because if there are foxes violating the Temple Mount, then I know the prophecy of Zechariah will come true, that old men and women, children will be playing and flourishing in the streets of Yerushalayim. Somehow, there's something unique about those foxes violating the Temple Mount. Says the Chida, Ayam V'Noira, the letters Shu'alim could be rearranged to spell Yishmael. Yishmael. When you see Yishmael prancing on the Temple Mount, being successful in Jerusalem, then you know what's coming. You know Mashiach ben David is on the way. There's a Baal HaTurim at the end of Parshas Chayei Sarah Toldos. The end of Chayei Sarah is Apnei Kol Echav Nafal, the Nefilah, the fall of Yishmael. And the next pasuk is V'yela Toldos Yitzchak, says a Baal HaTurim. Kishayipol Yishmael be'achris hayamim oz Yitzmach ben David. Exactly what we're saying. That at the end of days, it's not the fall of Golos Edom and then B'yas HaMashiach. It's the success and then fall of Yishmael that ushers in the great day that we're all awaiting. Says the Chidah that when Rabbi Akiva saw the success of Yishmael, he smiled because he knew that when you see those shualim, those clever foxes, who, as the Gemara says in Brachos, the fox wants to remove us from the water, remove us from our vitality, remove us from any life of spirituality. When you see Yishmael being successful, then you know Mashiach ben David is on the way. So may we be Zaycha. The Ramah says, Matzai Shabbos, you're supposed to mention Eliyahu Hanavi, because Eliyahu Hanavi can't come Friday, he can't come Shabbos. Matzai Shabbos is the first time to come. We should be Zaycha to see the downfall of all the Yisrael Yisrael, Golos Edom, Golos Yishmael. Should be Zaycha ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak. Now why, by the way, why is Yitzchak? What does Yitzchak have to do with Mashiach? So Yitzchak is 208. Somebody mentioned here the number 208. Yitzchak is 208. Pinchas, Eliyahu is 208. Yitzchak is a representation of the Gula Shlema. May we be zoichet to see it very, very speedily in our days. I thank you all for having me for Shabbos. It's been a pleasure being here. May we all see each other again. B'Yishalayim, Habanuya, B'Viyaskal Tzedek Meher Yameinu, Amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.